Today, we're diving into the tragic and really disturbing case of Rhoda Mumbi Mutua and the conviction of her husband, Nicholas Koskei. Now, just so you know, every single detail we're about to cover comes straight from the official court ruling handed down on March 4th, 2025. So, on July 8th, 2017, this simple, kind of generic tribute just pops up on Instagram. It's actually the first and only time this woman's face would ever appear on this particular account. But here's the really chilling part. It was posted on the very same day she died. So you have to ask, right? Who posted this? Who was sharing this message before most of her family even had a clue she was gone? Well, the truth is just absolutely chilling. It was posted by Nicholas Koskei, her husband, the man who, just hours before posting that, had taken her life. To really get what went so horribly wrong here, we first have to look at the perfect image they were projecting to the entire world. And this is where you see this huge gap between perception and reality. I mean, publicly, Nicholas was curating this image of a loving father, a successful UN employee. He even had #millionaire in his bio. But behind that perfect facade, the marriage was completely falling apart. For over a year, Rhoda had been telling her sister and a close friend how distant he'd become, how she was pretty sure he was having an affair. He even spent Valentine's Day with another woman. Then, out of the blue, in July 2017, Nicholas suggests a trip, a little getaway. He sold it to her as a chance to reconnect, to work on things and celebrate his upcoming birthday. And Rhoda, she was hopeful. She had absolutely no idea it was a trap. This timeline, taken right from the court records, it just shows how calculated this whole thing was. Look at this. At 3:20 p.m., he specifically asks for a room with a bathtub. An hour later, he's posting a happy photo of them to the family WhatsApp group, keeping up that facade. By 6:45, that's the last time anyone from the hotel sees Rhoda alive. Then, at 9 p.m., his story starts to crack. A waiter sees him sweating and panting, claiming he was out for a jog, but he's wearing jeans and slip-ons. And just 30 minutes later, he puts his plan into motion to discover her body. From this moment on, Nicholas's story just completely falls apart. His attempts to build an alibi were so clumsy and full of holes, it's almost hard to believe. See, his story kept changing depending on who he was talking to. First, he tells the hotel staff he'd gone for a jog, but security testified that nope, no one was out jogging. Then, when he's at the police station, the story changes completely. Now he'd gone out to get food. For any investigator, these kinds of direct contradictions are a massive, massive red flag. And then there was the physical evidence, or lack of it, at the scene. Nicholas himself had a fresh injury near his eye, a sign that Rhoda likely fought for her life. The bathroom scene just made zero sense for a drowning. The water in the tub was clear, and the floor, the bath mat, everything was bone dry. And his behavior, it was just bizarre. He never once tried to check on his wife himself. And the most damning thing of all, he posted that RIP story before her own family had even been told she was gone. So, while Nicholas's lies were crumbling, forensic science was about to deliver the undeniable, brutal truth of what really happened in that hotel room. The autopsy was absolutely conclusive. Rhoda Mumbi Mutua did not drown. This was not some tragic accident. She was murdered. The official cause of death was asphyxia due to mechanical strangulation. And you know that story he would later try to spin about her having a drug problem? Well, the toxicology report completely obliterated that lie. Her system was clean. Zero drugs, zero alcohol, zero toxic substances. Nothing. Knowing that autopsy was coming, Nicholas made this last desperate move. He met with Rhoda's cousin, who happened to be a doctor, and he tried to get out ahead of the evidence. He just invents this story about a drug addiction. He even admits to roughing her up, which is a pretty obvious attempt to pre-explain the marks from the strangulation. He then claims he cleaned up a needle he found to protect the family's dignity. It was just a calculated, manipulative attempt to poison the investigation before it really even began. Now, with such clear evidence, you'd think this case would be shut pretty quickly. But for Rhoda's family, the path to justice was just beginning. And tragically, it would be an incredibly long one. It took nearly 8 years. 8 years from the day Rhoda was murdered in July 2017 to the final verdict in March of 2025. And what's really shocking is just how close he came to getting away with it. After his arrest, he faked insanity and was released on bond only 2 weeks later. For years, he was a free man.
He went back to his job at the UN, telling people his wife had died from cancer. It was only because Rhoda's family and the public absolutely refused to let it go, pushing the story online and in the media, that the case was finally forced to trial in 2019.
And after that long, painful wait, on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, Justice Richard Mongo of the Naivasha High Court found Nicholas Koskei guilty of the murder of his wife, Rhoda Mumbi Mutua. Rhoda's story is just such a harrowing reminder of the darkness that can hide behind a seemingly perfect facade. And the case leaves us with one final, haunting thought, a lesson really learned through unimaginable tragedy. Always trust your gut. What do you think is the biggest lesson we can take away from a case like this?